somewhere here in this mess, I've got the exact figure. I think it's something like $4 billion a year. Our national broadcasting programs were just pikers compared to theirs. And they've got tentacles like an octopus. I mean, the BBC is everywhere, not just in the United Kingdom. It's omnipresent. I mean, I was doing some research today. I mean, they broadcast 4 entertainment-oriented television channels.
The chamber falls silent as Senator John Kennedy rises with a look of disbelief carved across his face. He announces that the issue he is about to address is so outrageous, it could make anyone feel like sticking their head in an oven. He explains that this is not a routine complaint or political jab, but a disturbing pattern from one of the world's most influential broadcasters. The BBC, he says, has crossed a line that no media organization with global reach should ever cross. Kennedy outlines how the British network, funded by billions in mandatory public fees, holds enormous power over public perception. Yet instead of using that power responsibly, they manipulated footage, fabricated quotes, and reported stories that were simply untrue. The senator warns that such behavior doesn't just damage reputations, it distorts democracy itself. Senator Kennedy's message lands with unmistakable force as he calls out the BBC for its reckless disregard for truth and accountability.
The second topic I want to talk about, Madam President, gosh, I wish I'd started with this first. I hate to end on a negative note, but the second thing I want to talk about makes me want to stick my head in an oven. British Broadcasting Corporation. We've all heard of it, BBC. It's the United Kingdom's version of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The BBC is the United Kingdom's state-owned, state-paid-for, state broadcast corporation. I think they call it BEEB. I think that's the slang term for it, the British Broadcasting Corporation. And everybody in the United Kingdom pays for it. You know, we were paying, American people were paying a lot for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting before we stopped the subsidies. American people were paying about $500 million a year. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, they were pikers compared to the BBC. In the United Kingdom, every citizen, whether they watch BBC or not, every citizen has to pay $230 a year. Everybody. Doesn't matter whether you watch the BBC or not. You may just have nothing but streaming services. You still got to pay $230 a year to the BBC. They collect billions of dollars a year. Somewhere here in this mess, I've got the exact figure. I think it's something like $4 billion a year. Our national broadcasting programs were just pikers compared to theirs. And they've got tentacles like an octopus. I mean, the BBC is everywhere, not just in the United Kingdom. It's omnipresent. I mean, I was doing some research today. I mean, they broadcast 4 entertainment-oriented television channels. They broadcast 2 children's channels. They broadcast Parliament. They have local language channels in Scotland and Wales. They have a domestic 24-hour news channel. And these folks are everywhere. They run dozens of radio stations. They operate their own video and audio streaming services. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Why am I mentioning that? Well, the BBC is a big deal. They reach a lot of people, millions and millions of people, not just in the United Kingdom, but across the world. And it's important that they be fair. And it's important that they be balanced, and it's important that they be accurate. And they're not. And it's been a problem for a long time. 5 or 6 years ago, at the suggestion of Parliament, which was very upset with the BBC's bias, they hired a consultant, a smart gentleman, and he did a report on how to improve BBC and make it fairer. It was a huge report. Here's just part of it right here. This isn't even all of it, but this is just the summary right here. Spent hours, spent a lot of money preparing this report. He sent it to the BBC. And you know what the BBC did? Nothing. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. They just continued on doing what they always do, sucking on their teeth, publishing whatever they want. And nothing would have happened except the report issued by the consultant leaked. Somebody leaked it to a newspaper in the United Kingdom, the Telegraph. And they published it. And the whole world got to see what the BBC's own consultant had found. I'll give you a couple of examples. We all remember January 6th. President Trump gave a speech. We've all seen it. It was a long speech. It was about an hour, maybe longer. A week before the last presidential election in America, the BBC did a documentary on President Trump. And you know what they did? They took his hour-plus long speech, and they took 2 snippets from that speech. One snippet at the beginning and one snippet at the end. The excerpts that the BBC took were 50 minutes apart. So they took them totally out of context. And they spliced those 2 excerpts together to make it look like one speech. And they had the President of the United States making a direct plea for violence. The way the BBC edited the president's speech, he was telling the people at his speech to march on the Capitol and invade it. Well, that's not what his speech said. Now, reasonable people can disagree all they want to, but no reasonable person can listen to the president's speech and conclude that.
He makes it clear that when a state-funded media giant manipulates footage, fabricates quotes, and broadcasts biased narratives, it becomes a danger to public trust everywhere. Kennedy insists that no nation, especially one as closely tied to the United States as the United Kingdom, should tolerate such blatant misinformation. He argues that President Trump's decision to consider legal action is not only justified, but necessary to restore credibility and force long-overdue reform. Kennedy's unwavering stance reflects a deeper commitment to fairness, transparency, and honest reporting in a world drowning in distorted narratives. He warns that powerful institutions must be held to the same standards as the people they criticize, and as he closes, he reminds the Senate and the world that defending truth is not optional, it is essential.